Okay, I want you to picture a resume for a second, but, not the polished one you have on LinkedIn. I'm talking about a resume of just absolute disasters. If this thing landed on your desk, you'd probably shred it. Just be kind.
That bad, huh?
Oh, it's brutal.
Oh.
Let's run down the list here. You've got a Velcro leg support for tennis players, rejected by every single company. Then there's a meditation guide that's sold, and I'm not kidding, 3 copies.
3. That's like one for his mom, maybe a supportive aunt.
Right. Then 2 computer games he spent years on, sold 20 copies total. A keypad invention for phones. He got it patented, but it never made a dime. He lost a ton of money investing in Webvan right before the bubble burst. Oh, and 2 failed restaurants. And my personal favorite, a failed line of vegetarian burritos.
When you lay it all out like that, it sounds less like a career and more like a cry for help.
It really, really does. And yet, the guy with this resume, he's not some cautionary tale. He's Scott Adams, the creator of Dilbert, which is, it's arguably one of the most successful comic strips in history. So today we're diving into his book, How to Fail at Almost Everything and Still Win Big.
It's such a great title. It really gets at the whole paradox of the book. We're so used to studying success. We look at Steve Jobs and Elon Musk and we try to reverse engineer what they did right. But Adams says that resume of failure you just read, that wasn't a detour. It was the whole point. It was the system.
And that's our mission for this deep dive. We're going to try to figure out how a self-proclaimed serial failure built a system to win, and we need to unpack his most famous idea, that goals are for losers.
Which is, it's a real slap in the face to the whole self-help world.
Oh, completely. Think about corporate culture. It's all about goals.
Yeah.
Q4 goals, 5-year plans, KPIs.
Yeah.
When I first read Goals Are for Losers, I just thought he was trying to be provocative, but he's actually dead serious.
Yeah.
So let's get into the logic. Why does he think having a goal makes you a loser?
It all comes down to the emotional state of a goal. Let's use the classic one, New Year's resolutions. Say your goal is to lose 20 pounds. From the second you set that goal, what's your day-to-day feeling?
That you're not there yet.
Exactly. You're in a constant state of what he calls pre-success failure.
Yeah.
Every single day you wake up, you haven't hit the target. So you're sending this message to your brain over and over that I am currently failing. It's this huge psychological burden you carry around.
Okay, that's a pretty bleak way to put it. But, let's say you do it. You have the grit, you drink the kale smoothies, you lose the 20 pounds. You won, right?
Yeah. You win for about 5 minutes. You feel great, you buy new jeans, and then what? The goal is gone. The thing that was driving you, that gave you purpose, has just vanished. And that's why you see that yo-yo effect so often. Once the finish line is crossed, the whole motivation structure collapses, and the weight just comes right back on.
So a goal is like a finite game. You play it, you win or you lose, and then it's over.
Precisely. And Adams says winners don't play those games. They build systems. A system is just. It's something you do regularly that increases your odds of success over the long run.
Okay, so give me the system version of that weight loss goal.
So the goal is lose 20 pounds. The system is eat healthy every day. See the difference? If you eat healthy today, you won. You get that little hit of success right now. If you do it again tomorrow, you win again. You're not waiting for some future payoff. You're winning daily, and that keeps your personal energy high instead of draining it with anxiety.
There's a story in the book that I think just nails this whole mindset shift. Adams talks about being on a flight. He was just out of college, and he ends up next to the CEO of a screw company, of all things.
A screw company? Yeah. Sounds like the start of a bad joke, but the advice was gold.
So Adams asks him for career advice. And the CEO says something that, just completely rewired how Adams thought. He said, I never wait until I need a job to look for one. I am always looking for a better job.
And that's a system. That's the perfect definition of a system. Think about how most people operate. They get a job, they get comfortable, and they stop looking until they're laid off or totally burned out. That's goal-oriented. Get a job. Check. The CEO had a continuous process. He was always scanning, always networking, which it dramatically increased his odds of stumbling into a great opportunity. He wasn't waiting for luck. He was creating a bigger target for luck to hit.
But doesn't that sound kind of exhausting, to be always looking?
I think it's actually less exhausting. It's low-grade, constant effort versus the absolute panic and high-stress effort of needing a job right now.
That makes sense. It's about preserving your energy.
Yeah.
Okay, I want to shift to what I think is maybe the most practical tool in the whole book because, the usual advice is be the best, be Tiger Woods, be Warren Buffett. But Adams says, for most of us, trying to be the best in the world is a really, really bad strategy.
It's a losing bet. I mean, to be the top 1% at any one thing requires what? Genetics, obsession, a ton of luck. But Adams points out that it's surprisingly easy to be in the top 25%, just pretty good at 2 or 3 different things.
And that's his talent stack idea.
Right. You stack these pretty good skills together, and the combination itself becomes unique and valuable. He uses himself as the prime example.
Which is funny because he's so blunt about his own abilities. He just says, I am a mediocre artist.
And he is. I mean, Dilbert is great, but it's not a masterpiece of fine art.
Then he says, I'm not the funniest person in the world. He's funny, sure, but he's not, a top-tier stand-up comedian. He's maybe top 25% funny. But then he adds that third layer. He spent years in corporate cubicles. He knows the language of business.
And that's where the magic happens, the intersection. There are millions of better artists, thousands of funnier writers, millions of people with corporate experience. But how many people are pretty good at drawing, pretty good at jokes, and have a deep personal understanding of how soul-crushing a TPS report is?
It's a market of one.
Exactly. The stack is what made him unique. He didn't have to be the best at any one thing. The value was in the mix.
So if you're listening to this and thinking, okay, I need a stack, what do you put in it? He actually gives a kind of shopping list of skills he thinks have this multiplier effect.
Yeah, he calls them summary skills, I think.
Let's run through a couple. Public speaking is huge for him.
Oh, huge. Because if you're a brilliant engineer, but you can't explain your ideas without staring at your feet, you have a ceiling. But if you're a top 25% engineer who can also stand up and, actually sell your vision to executives, suddenly you're on the leadership track. It just amplifies everything.
You also mentioned psychology, specifically persuasion.
I mean, that's just the operating system for dealing with other humans,
Yeah.
right? Sales, management, dating, everything.
Here's one that I found interesting. Accounting. Not becoming an accountant, but knowing the basics. Why? It seems so boring.
It is boring, but it's the language of business. If you're in any kind of company and you don't know the difference between cash flow and profit, you're flying blind. You don't need to be a CPA, but if you're literate in finance, you can't be fooled. It just gives you a seat at the adult table.
And then there's the wild card. Golf.
Yeah, I kind of laughed at that one too, but he's got a point. Golf is an access tool. It's 4 hours trapped on a course with people who can potentially help your career. It's not about the sport, it's about the networking. If you can just play a decent game, again, top 25%, not embarrassing yourself, you get invited to conversations that would never happen in an office.
And lastly, learning a second language.
Yeah, this one's interesting. He gives the example of Canada, where being bilingual in English and French just qualifies you for a whole tier of jobs that are off limits otherwise. It's about increasing your surface area for luck.
I love that phrase, increasing your surface area for luck.
Mm.
Because that brings us right back to that resume of failures. The burritos, the Velcro. If you have a system, how do you deal with just crashing and burning?
Well, Adams just completely reframes what failure is. If you have a goal, failure is the end. You lost. But if you have a system, a failure is just, it's data.
It's like expensive market research.
Exactly. He learned to code from the failed video games. He learned about supply chains from the failed burrito business. He was building his talent stack the whole time, even when he was losing money. He uses this great analogy of a slot machine.
Right. This really stuck with me. He says success is mostly luck, which is something successful people almost never admit.
They hate admitting it, but Adams just says, look, it's luck, but you can control how many times you pull the lever on the slot machine.
And the price of pulling the lever is your time and effort.
Right. If you go to Vegas and pull the lever once, your odds are terrible.
Yeah.
But if you build a system in your life that lets you pull that lever over and over and over again, eventually the odds start to bend in your favor. You just stay in the game long enough for a lucky roll to find you.
But you have to know when to walk away from a machine that's not paying out.
Mm.
He has this rule about starting out bad, which sounds weird.
Yeah, it's basically his don't polish a turd rule.
Yeah.
He's observed that things that go on to be huge successes, they usually have a little spark of enthusiasm right from the start, even when the product is rough.
Like the first Dilbert comics. The art was terrible, but people were cutting them out and sticking them on their fridges.
Exactly. There was a pulse, a heartbeat. Compare that to the vegetarian burrito. He launched it, and the market's response was crickets. Silence. His advice is, if you launch and nobody cares, don't spend 5 years trying to fix it. Just quit. Quit fast. And save your energy for the next pull of the lever.
That takes some real self-awareness. Okay, let's talk about the engine that runs all this. Energy. He has a really interesting view on productivity. He doesn't care at all about time management.
No, he thinks it's a trap. He's all in on energy management. The main question he asks himself is, will this activity increase my personal energy or will it drain it?
It's almost like he's his own little science experiment.
It's basically biohacking for normal people. Take food, for instance. He doesn't really obsess over calories. He just asks, how do I feel an hour after I eat this? He figured out that simple carbs bread, potatoes made him tired. So he cut them, not to get thin, but to stay awake.
But he's not a fanatic about it. He has this butter on broccoli strategy.
I love this. He knows vegetables give him good, sustained energy. But vegetables can be really boring. So he says, fine, put butter on them, put salt on them, cheese, whatever. Just do what it takes to get the good stuff in your system. The energy you get from the broccoli is worth more than the cost of the butter. It's about compliance over perfection.
And he applies the same logic to his schedule. I feel this one so much. Trying to do creative work at 3 in the afternoon is like wading through mud.
Right, that's the afternoon slump. And he doesn't fight it. He knows his brain is sharpest in the morning, so that's when he does the creative work. He draws the comics. And he saves all the mindless stuff, email, admin work for the afternoon when his brain is kind of checked out anyway. He's working with his biology, not against it.
Okay, we've been very logical up to this point. Systems, stacks, energy. Now we need to take a sharp left turn into the weird stuff. We have to talk about the affirmations.
Ah, yes, the woo-woo stuff.
The woo-woo stuff. And this isn't just, positive thinking. He's talking about a very specific practice. Writing down a goal 15 times a day, every day.
Yeah, this is where he tends to lose the super rational crowd. He describes writing over and over things like, I, Scott, will become rich.
And the results he claims he got are, they're kind of spooky.
They're weirdly specific, right? He said he used this to pick 2 stocks that just went through the roof, and he knew nothing about stocks. He used it to score a 94 on his GMAT.
That GMAT story is insane. He didn't just want a good score. He visualized the specific number, 94, wrote it down 15 times a day. Walked in, took the test, and got a 94. Exactly.
And then, of course, the big one. I, Scott Adams, will become a famous cartoonist.
So what's going on here? Does he think he's magic? Is he actually bending reality with a pen?
He's pretty careful to say he doesn't really know how it works, but he offers a theory that's actually based in neuroscience. It's called the reticular activating system, or the RAS.
That's the filter in your brain, right?
It is, yeah. Your brain is hit with millions of bits of data every second. It can't possibly pay attention to all of it, so it filters almost everything out. Adams's theory is that by writing, I will be a famous cartoonist every day, you're programming that filter. You're telling your RAS, hey, pay attention to stuff related to this.
So you just start to notice opportunities you would have otherwise missed.
Exactly. You see an article about cartoon syndication you would have ignored. You overhear a conversation that gives you an idea. It looks like magic from the outside, but it's really just a state of hyper-focus. You're priming your brain to hunt for what you want.
Now, speaking of filters, we have to talk about the elephant in the room. We can't really do a deep dive on Scott Adams today without acknowledging that his public persona has shifted pretty dramatically since this book came out.
That is putting it very, very mildly.
Yeah?
If you search for him now, you're not seeing stuff about Dilbert. You're seeing headlines about controversy, about being dropped by newspapers, about some very polarizing commentary.
The sources we read, especially on Reddit, they really show this divide. A lot of people find his more recent views and statements to be, completely unacceptable.
And that creates a real problem for people who might benefit from this book. We saw it in the discussions. There's one group that says, I can't separate the artist from the art. His modern views are just, they're a deal breaker for me. And, that's a perfectly reasonable position to take.
But then you have this other group. Their take is basically, look, I might strongly disagree with the man today, but the ideas in this book, the systems, the talent stack, these are powerful, useful tools.
It's that classic debate, isn't it? Can you separate the message from the messenger? Our job here isn't to weigh in on his politics. It's to ask, does the tool work? Objectively, the idea of systems over goals works. So the talent stack framework, it works. The advice itself is sound regardless of who delivered it.
I think that's the only fair way to look at it. Take the utility and leave the rest. And speaking of utility, let's talk about how Dilbert actually took off. Because it wasn't some solo genius moment, it was a feedback loop.
This goes right back to the system of gathering market data. When Dilbert first started, it was just, okay, It was a generic comic about a guy and his dog.
But then, back in 1993, which was the stone age of the internet, Adams did something nobody else was doing. He put his actual email address in the margin of the comic.
Which was just unheard of. But he started getting emails, and he saw a pattern. Nobody was writing to him about the jokes of the dog, but every time he did a strip about the office, a bad boss, a pointless meeting, his inbox would just light up.
He was listening to the market.
He pivoted the entire strip. He realized the comic wasn't about a guy named Dilbert. It was about the shared experience of corporate life,
Yeah.
and that's when it exploded. He didn't force his vision on the world. He let the world tell him what it wanted from him.
There's one last little piece of advice I want to pull out before we wrap. It's about praise. Adams makes the case that withholding praise is basically immoral.
Oh, I love this point. We have this strange idea that compliments are like a scarce resource, that if you give too many, they lose their meaning. Adam says that's just nonsense. Most adults are completely starved for a genuine compliment. We get criticized all day long. Honest praise is free.
And it ties back into energy management.
Totally. If you praise someone you work with, their energy goes up. If their energy is up, they're easier to deal with, they do better work, they're nicer, your own environment gets better. It's almost a selfish act to be generous with praise.
Okay, so let's try to wrap all this up. If we had to boil down the Adams formula to a quick cheat sheet, what would it be?
I'd say it's 4 main things. 1, forget goals, build systems. Focus on a daily process that makes you a winner today. 2, don't try to be the best at one thing. Build a talent stack. Get pretty good at 2 or 3 useful things that, in combination, make you rare. 3, manage your energy, not your time. Figure out what fuels you and what drains you, and design your life around that. And 4, keep pulling the lever. Try lots of things, fail fast, and just stay in the game long enough for luck to have a chance to find you.
And maybe, just maybe, write down what you want 15 times a day.
Couldn't hurt, right? Just in case the universe is paying attention.
So here's the question I want to leave you with. Take a look at your own life right now. Are you stuck in a goal mindset? Are you walking around every day feeling like a pre-success failure because you haven't hit some big distant milestone?
And then think about your skills. What does your talent stack actually look like? You might be bored with what you do now, but what's one other pretty good skill? Learning a language, getting decent at public speaking that you could stack on top of what you already know to make yourself, well, dangerous.
That's the thought we'll leave you with. Sometimes winning big looks a whole lot like failing. Over and over again until the system finally pays off. Thanks for diving in with us.
See you next time.